Hey everybody, welcome back to Friday PM. Last week I actually had my friend and co-producing partner Warren Edgar with me talking about the new show, Ask Christina Anything. It's actually not a new show, it's the new season. So it's very exciting. This is season 2.
Yes.
So I thought it would be cool if I asked Warren if he could bring Christina back, and I have the two of them together here. So we have both Warren and Christina, Christina Label and Warren Edgar from Ask Christina Anything Season 2. They're going to talk a little bit about what's new this season, what stayed the same, when it's on, what to look for. So welcome, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great to see you guys. Great to be here.
So when did you guys start taping the second season? I know the first season was probably last year. We finished up, I think, with the tapings of that probably by late spring. Took the summer off. You guys started taping a couple of months ago. You've had several episodes already in the can.
Yeah, no, we've had so far, we've filmed quite a few episodes. And what's great about this is that, we kind of just sit down and we just kind of start filming and we kind of just, go as long as we feel like we should go. We have questions laid out. And of course, we're adding questions every single day from, people who are writing in, from people who are asking these questions. I mean, even our own producers, I find, have a lot of questions to ask.
Yes.
Our segment producers, they tend to have questions, and so we're incorporating them as well. But, your point about this being season 2, last year we didn't really do a lot of episodes, and now we're coming back and now we're doing a lot of episodes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's really stayed the same is Warren and I, and everything else is kind of up for morphing and changing and kind of figuring out what the lay of the land looks like for us. So I think that's something I appreciate about working with you guys, is that we have that kind of wiggle room to figure out what is the right flow for us and what kind of broaches all the subjects we need, but can also be rearranged as we see fit.
And so for the audience out there that might be newer to Channel 5, they hadn't always seen your guys' first season. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about the style of the show, kind of what it's about?
Yeah, I mean, this show really is about it's relationship advice. It's advice from real people who are asking real questions and they're seeking real feedback. And of course, Christina Label, who is our intimacy expert, she is really, she's taking these questions on head on. And I can't really speak for you, but it's impressive, the advice that you give.
It's fun for me where I've had such a great business and communication and really talking with people. That is what my job is at the end of the day. So it really helps me get versed with knowing what's going on in people's minds. And although this is relationship based, it doesn't mean that there's just intimacy in those relationships. This is also for, co-working, family, friends. So it's kind of that overarching life questions of how do we just get some other feedback or some other point of perspectives, which I always appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have a red flag segment that's fun, where isn't it kind of like a lightning round almost in a way?
Yeah.
And it's a way to get a lot of the different questions or thoughts of different people have. You focus on relationships a lot of the time, intimacy within relationships. Do you take questions from both men and women, all ages? It's not a very one thing or the other. It could
We don't discriminate. Yeah. And if you've got a question, you can ask it, and we'll do our best to answer it.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think that's what's important. If you only stay within your sphere of people, how are you going to learn about different coping mechanisms, different ways to approach things, different questions to ask? And I think that's something else we're going to bring into the new season, is also just having a segment on good leading questions to ask in new relationships. So that's something that you'll see the next episode. So instead of just the questions, let's also work on those prompts when you're in a new relationship of how do you kind of cover those bases that maybe can prevent long-term crisis if you kind of answer those first. And sometimes we just don't know what to ask.
Yeah.
So gearing and empowering us to ask questions before you ask us questions.
Yeah, I mean, the show really is, it's in the name, anything. We are willing to take on anything. And that means tackling really big questions and really big problems, societal problems. We've talked about alcoholism, domestic violence, abuse within a relationship. And I think to desensitize that, and by just talking about it publicly like this on this show, I hope anyway, that it's doing a service.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like you guys are doing some types of stuff with the show where it's more preemptive. So it isn't always about the idea that, oh, this relationship has gone bad, what do I do now? It's kind of like if you go to a car dealership and you want to buy a car, you want to look under the hood before you buy it, get an idea of what's going on. So you'll be talking a lot about that, of like things to look for before maybe you get into a relationship. And that could be good for a lot of younger people as well, because right now, do you find, this is kind of a little off topic, but are younger people taking longer to get into relationships, do you think, than they did before? Or maybe it seems like you see that in society where people aren't as apt to jump into things. And maybe that's a good way that you can give them a little advice before they step into that.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, I think it ebbs and flows with people. We're all kind of different with how we build those relationships, but I think we're all guilty of jumping in a little too soon at some point with someone. Right. So I think as we grow older and as we mature and learn about ourselves, one of those ways is how you relationship build. And you have to look at that differently as you age and as you grow and as your needs ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
So really just putting you in the driver's seat to know, okay, my questions on a first date now at 33 are much different than at 23. How do you kind of evolve with that and learn those ways? Because there's a lot of things you can ask and empower yourself very quickly to stop the long, disengaging, unfun, unhealthy, toxic relationships that could come. So definitely, like you said, just more proactive. More proactive. And just helping you kind of learn how to build a better relationship from the get-go.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, and to a piece on your question, if anything, I think that younger people are getting into relationships a lot quicker than they're really putting thought into it.
Right.
And I think what this show is really teaching people to do is stop and evaluate what's happening. You know, look at things like, how are they acting? How are they talking? How are they talking about you to your friends or you to their friends? You know, these are key fundamental things that I think a lot of people overlook.
Yeah.
And it results in some pretty bad outcomes. And I think what this is trying to teach you is that there are signs that you can look for in your relationships to ensure that there is clear communication and that there is a clear understanding.
Yeah, that there's like a balance, because you don't want this person putting you on a pedestal, but at the same time, you don't want them to be emotionally unavailable either. Now, is it true, Christina, what they say, you can tell a lot about a man on a first date by how he treats the waiter or the waitress?
I don't think that that's necessarily assigned to sex. I think that goes across the board, because how I treat them matters as well. So yes, those kind of very small observational skills are so important. And those are the things that I look for the most, because everybody in this life knows something better than you. So you kind of have to approach every person like that. So those things are definitely important.
And can you or should you always trust your friend's evaluation of your new partner?
Always is a hard word with anything, right? Because there's always exceptions to the rules. But for the most part, if you are in a supportive, secure friend group, absolutely.
And they'll give you the advice.
I'll give a small piece from my own experience. In my early 20s, I was dating this guy who I was so in love with.
And you saw rose-colored glasses, possibly.
And all my friends were just like, yeah, he's great. And then when the relationship eventually imploded and ended, everybody was like, you know what, we didn't really like them. And I was upset because I was like, you could have saved me. Like, you see things. So for me, I felt let down by them. And that was a sticking point for me of like, what are you in my sphere for if you're not protecting me?
But conversely, what I should ask you, because I've seen it through people that I've known, as a friend, if you're in that position, at what point do you step in? Because a lot of times that doesn't always work out. If you tell the truth about that person, then they get back with them. Oftentimes you could be painted as the bad guy in the situation.
Right. Well, we know the messenger typically pays, you know, which is unfortunate across the board in life. But for me, I would say as soon as you notice those things, let your friend know, because maybe they're wrong observations. Maybe they're 100% right. So for me, I'd rather have that person in the driver's seat, knowing at least perceived what's the truth, and then they can watch, they can observe, they can come to their own conclusions. But without that information in my pocket, I mean, I'm not going to know. I'm going to be, my rose-colored glasses are going to be back on. So
well, and I think that in that situation, oftentimes, if you're objective and you just tell them kind of what you see, it's probably a lot better than forming an opinion, because then that can't be used against you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And approaching it just from this is X, Y, and Z. This is what I saw, what I observed, and that's it. No, this is what it makes me feel. This is just the situation at hand. That's a great call out, Luigi.
Yeah. Now, is it possible for us to see a clip now of the show?
It
and
is.
if it is, can you set it up for us?
Yes. We're going to go now to a clip from the season 2 premiere of Ask Christina Anything, where we talk about some serious issues. Take a look. All right, Christina, our next question asks, my partner recently told me that he's bisexual. I care a lot about him, but I'm not sure what that means for our relationship going forward. Can this still work, or are we too different?
I think the biggest question I would have in that situation would be, does this mean that my partner wants to open our relationship so they can explore upon that facet of them? Or is this them educating me about their previous dating experiences and partners and just kind of broaching that subject for me to have more understanding of who they are? Obviously, in this day and age, it's becoming much easier for people to be who they are. So it's really one of those, it needs a conversation of like, hey, I'm just curious about this. I understand some of the context, but I want to understand what it means going forward for us.
The thing that I come back to is this something that they are just now finding out about themselves, or is this something that they've always known, and maybe they've had same-sex partners in the past? Being as open as possible and kind of asking them, how do you want this to go forward? You should have a say in this as well, but just understanding context, I think, is key.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you said it best of, is this something that is new for you, or is this part of something that you've known for a while? Because I think that broaches kind of a new conversation arc, and I think that's a really great call out.
Hey everybody, we're back here again with Warren and Christina. In our last couple of seconds, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I know this season you may be expanding the amount of guests, maybe having some new people on. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Absolutely. I think that's part of that ever evolving with Warren and I, that this year we decided once a month we're going to bring in an expert from a different organization or industry to have on our panel with us. So just kind of changing the conversation, the direction, getting a third party thought and idea, I think is really great. And then also at that same time, highlighting resources that people in relationships can reach out to and access.
Yeah, excellent.
Definitely,
excellent.
yeah.
And Warren, could you tell everybody where they can find the show on the schedule? If they miss it, where they can watch it after the fact.
Yeah.
And then we'll put a little link on here because you guys have a work in progress new email to send to. So we're going to add that right on here.
Yeah, so of course you can watch right here on PMC Channel 5 at 10 p.m. every Friday night. It's streaming, of course, on YouTube under Luigi Scarcelli Official. It's also on PMC Channel 5's own streaming service, pmcwatch.com. And just to finish out, the one thing I really want to say is that I'm really excited for folks to see this new season, because I feel like we've gone all out, from content-wise to even production-wise. We're filming in this beautiful new home, and just the production quality, we've really upped the game there. I think this is, not only is this a show that has meaningful information in it, but it's also fun to watch. Yeah. And I know that was a conversation we were having earlier about just the flow of it is just so good. Yeah. And I'm really excited to see. To have folks see
exactly. I can test to that. New graphics.
Yes.
4K, beautiful colors. I mean, it looks great. You've spared no expense on the production value on it. So you should definitely tune in on those times. Watch it here on Channel 5. I think you're going to really like it, and you'll get something out of it as well. So I want to thank you guys again for being here.
Thank you.
And watch that show. We'll be right back.